Let's look at how to plan your writing. This is a crucial step in the writing process and an area where you really want to build your skills. Let's get started. Here we have the curriculum expectation. It's the first one in the writing strand. You need to be able to identify the topic, purpose, and audience for a variety of writing tasks. Our learning goal with simplified language says we need to identify the topic, purpose, and audience before writing. That's the learning goal that we're going to focus on in this video. Before you do anything when you're writing something, you need to plan. And that planning includes the audience, the purpose, the format, and the content. So the audience is the people that you're writing for. The purpose is the reason why you're writing. The format is the method that you're going to write with, perhaps an email or an essay. And then the content is everything that you include in your writing. So let's take a look at each one of those individually so you can think about how to plan those sections. The first thing to think about is your audience. Who are you writing for? And then you can break it down. First, what do you know about your audience and what is their background knowledge? What do they know about your topic? So do they know a lot about your topic? Are they experts themselves, or do they know absolutely nothing? Very often it's somewhere in between where they might know a little bit or they might know quite a bit. So you've really got to consider what your audience knows. A couple examples: if you're writing in a professional situation, and let's say you're an accountant and you're writing an email to people in sales. Well, the sales team won't have the accounting knowledge that you do. So that's an area of background knowledge. If you're writing an informative paragraph, let's say you're writing about polar bears. Well, most people know a lot about polar bears, but perhaps you're writing about the economic effects in Brazil in the 1970s, something very specific where people might not know anything about the topic. So think a lot about what your audience knows. Once you've kind of thought about the background of your audience or their experience, then you can start to consider what format would they like. So do they prefer a text message? Do they prefer an email? We know that in our personal communication, where we text with some people and we use online messengers with others, and others will call them and others will send an email. So there's lots of options there. And this is the same if you're writing academically or if you're writing professionally. You've got to consider what is the best format for me to write this in, depending on your audience. Secondly, what language do they know? This is a little bit like their background experience. How much do they know about the topic, but more importantly, what language do they know? So I gave the example of if you're an accountant and you're writing to a sales team, well, they might not know all that accounting language that you know. This could be the same about informal language or slang or very formal language or very academic language. There's lots of different types of language we can use. So what does your audience know? What are they comfortable with? And then finally, what is your audience's goals? What do they want to get from this? Or you could ask the question, why are they reading this? And that really gets to the next point, which is the purpose. So you want to consider, what is your purpose for writing? You should always have a purpose. If you don't, then don't write. But you can have many types of purposes. So one common one is that you're going to teach or you're going to inform. Think about when you're reading on Wikipedia or when you're reading an article on the internet, you're looking for information. So that purpose is to inform. We know that there's persuasive writing, where it could be an essay, or in a business situation, it could be an email trying to get the team to take a decision that you like. So you can persuade and you can inform, you can teach, you can explain, you can show your research. There are many reasons why you would write. You've really got to think about, why am I writing this? And that will help you plan and really consider your ideas as you continue in that planning process. Next, we have the format. So we talked a bit about the audience and what format they prefer, but generally speaking, for format, you need to think about what is the best way for me to write this. So it's great if you decide that your friend likes a text message, but sometimes it's the topic. So for example, if you are writing a news report or a news article, you're not going to put it in the format of an email. If you're trying to write some kind of literary analysis, say you're writing in an academic situation, you're not going to put that in the format of a news article. So the topic very often will determine what is the best format, and very often, whether it's an assignment or in an academic situation or in a work situation, you will have that format predetermined. So again, if it's academic and your teacher says write an essay, the format is essay. If you're at work and your boss says write a report, then you write a report. So sometimes you don't get to decide that format, and very often the topic determines that format. And as we looked at before, you've got to think about what type of format the audience would prefer. So finally, we have content, and as you're starting to plan, most importantly, you've gone through the audience, the purpose, and the format, but at the end, you want to think a little bit about what content will I include, and very often the question to ask is, how much content will you include? So if you are writing, again, the example of a news article, how much are you going to include? Are you going to give all the background information, only the key details? You know, if you're writing an email, are you going to have an attachment? Are you going to have a list of information? Or are you going to save that for later? So you've always got decisions on how much to include. Overall, you want to try and keep that content small. You don't want to be giving too much content, especially when you're teaching, especially when you're instructing or informing, because people can only take in so much information. So you don't want too much there, and you really want to keep your writing concise. But this is an important part about planning, is to think about what content will you include. So that's planning your writing. We looked at audience, thought about their background, their experience, and what that means for your purpose and your format, and which of those your audience would prefer. We looked at purpose, where we said you always need to have a purpose for writing. You should always ask yourself, why am I writing this? We looked at format, thought about what is the best format for the topic, what is the best format for your audience, and of course sometimes you have a required format, maybe from your boss or from your teacher. And then finally we thought about content, and you want to consider which of your content you're going to include. What information does your audience need to know? If you can plan and consider all four of those things, you're going to be much better prepared when you actually start to brainstorm your ideas or create outlines or start collecting research. Again, this is something you want to do at the very beginning of the writing process. And this is a great first step to get you on the right track to successful writing.